Hello, this is Sudhakar Moparty again. Welcome to Crowdsourced AI. This project is about integrating other AIs in, in a central place so that we could automate most of the tasks that we do in our enterprise. So, if you are interested in this type of project, please get in touch with me. Let's go. Okay, today we're going to see our AWS IAM service using ChatGPT. And today, especially, we will see policies and permissions. Let me share my screen. All right. So in the previous sessions, we have seen how IAM works. What are different types of users of IAM service. Today, we're going to see permissions and policies. So let's copy this. This is your session expired. Okay. Let's log into ChatGPT. Okay, finally we logged in. All right. Let's go to our prompt. Okay, yesterday we were generating this and we got some error. Okay, let's try regenerate. Federating existing users, corporate directory. Okay, so there are different ways to access and connect AWS IAM service to the corporate world using corporate directory, and that's called federation. Internet identities are like Google, Facebook, etc. So we can connect those identities to IAM service and utilize so that you could provide a single sign-on type of access. All right, continuing on to our permissions and policies. Create a JSON. I'm going to copy paste. Access management. So it's giving some overview of access management, so which we already know. We can ignore all that, I guess. So let's see what it will give. I am interested to see if it can give anything extra. All right, so that's just a general things that we already know. I don't have to do much here. Policies and accounts. I'm expecting ChatGPT to extract the essence so that I could just observe the JSON structure and the relations between them. That's the theme. That's the uniqueness here. Bear with me. Permission management. Okay. Again, verbose after verbose. So it's all noise. We already know. Okay, there has to be some permissions. So you just read once, and whatever you would understand, you would understand. The things that you don't understand, not to worry. It's like there's some words that doesn't make sense. They will eventually make sense. Multiple accounts. Okay, so there you go. Here, there's also a concept called multiple accounts. I can have multiple accounts of AWS, and I can connect all of them together, and then I can have some billing. Uh, uh, the expenses that come out of all those individual accounts can be aggregated and paid by one account. So you can have multiple accounts. Okay. So how do you access the resources from one account to another account, from another account? So that's the kind of policies and permissions we can provision in IAM service. Okay, in this, all I want, again, oops. Okay, I click something. Let me go to the bottom. Okay, so let me go back here. Policies and users. All right, it says I want to access all. Yeah, as you could see, this is how they provision things, JSONs. So we are in the right direction, even to understand all this. So, so here it is. They're saying allow DynamoDB star says all the resources inside. This is the resource. This is the resource that I want to allow for DynamoDB to access. All right, let's see if that is what my understanding. See here, I'm trying to show you guys this methodology. Okay, so I don't want to even, I may be misinterpreting, but I want to test ChatGPT because I'm not reading the text. I want ChatGPT to interpret the text. Wow, it constructed from that paragraph, that thing. Or maybe it just grabbed from here because ChatGPT is maybe connected to AWS. Okay, so let's see what this says. I did the same thing. Did I not copy a different one? Yeah, I copied a different one, different paragraph. Okay, so let's go and check it out. Just read a little bit and see the differences. IAM users are identities in the service. That we already know. When you create an IAM user, they cannot access anything in your account until you give them permission. Yes, that also we know. By default, everything is disallowed. We already saw that. You give permissions to a user by creating an identity-based policy, which is a policy that is attached to the user or a group to which the user belongs. We saw that diagram. Okay, it's all repeating. The following example shows a JSON policy that allows the user to perform all Amazon DynamoDB actions on the books table account in the account within user to region. Okay, we will allow all the actions on this, all the actions of DynamoDB for this resource. DynamoDB is a database from Amazon which scales automatically, one of the services that they provide. So it's pretty straightforward. After you attach this policy to the user only has those DynamoDB permissions. Most users have multiple policies that together represent the permissions for that user. Obviously, actions are resources that are not explicitly allowed or denied by default. Again, they're repeating. For example, if the preceding policy is the only policy that is attached to a user, then the user is allowed to only perform DynamoDB actions on the books table. Actions on all other tables are prohibited. Similarly, the user is not allowed to perform any actions in Amazon EC2, S3, or other services. The reason is that permissions to work with those services are not included in the policy. So this is a policy. If this is the only thing that is attached, then they will only be able to do this. As you could see, now let's take one moment to reinforce our thing. We already said there are users, there are policies, there are groups, and so this is the policy, users, and if I have this policy, and this policy has permission to these permissions, this resource, let's say, policy. Okay, that's the resource. If I have access to that resource, there's only one arrow. Okay, so only I have access to that. Whatever I say this object, then I can also have one more permission, and then I get that thing also if I do add one more permission. So you can think of this as your one object. So I can add additional ones. So that's what it is. We already know all this. So they are just repeating all this. Okay, no big deal. We'll live with it for now. Okay, let me clear this. Okay, policies and groups. You can organize IAM users as IAM groups and attach policy to a group. In that case, individual users have their credentials or not. Okay, so this diagram shows that you got your account in which I got 3 groups, and in this group I got these people, and In the second group, I have these three. And then in the third group, I have these. Okay, so I don't want to copy paste now these things. They're just telling the same thing again and again. So as you could see, I'm going to just go over and then ignore all this. Federated users and roles. Federated users don't have permanent identities. That's a keyword. Permanent identities in your AWS account the way that IAM users do. So let's see what ChatGPT will say about this. Federated users object. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I think it ran out of tokens. That's fine. When we get the idea. So what it is doing, it is talking about federated users and rules, how they are interrelated, and then it's just put that description. I think it's a summary of what we have seen. Federated users and roles are entities that are used to grant temporary permissions to users and workloads. Yes, it's outside IAM service. It's not there in the IAM service. We haven't created any identities. It's outside identities. So they get access temporarily. They are not permanent. Federated users are authenticated by a third-party identity provider and are granted access to AWS resources by assuming a role. That's that link between roles and the federated user. Every federated user will assume a role, and that role will have access to some policies. And once you come, you will only get those policies and you're done. So they cannot log in directly to in that account like a regular standard IAM user, because the corporate is controlling their access to the account through the Active Directory or whatever the third party identity provider that the enterprise is using. Okay, so some more description of if we want to set up a third party federated users. So the important thing here is assuming a role. So I define roles. So, okay, let me draw one more time. So I got roles, and these roles will have some policies. And so this is when I can take this role when I come from my enterprise, log in into my single sign-on in my enterprise. I take this role and I get access to all the permissions that this policy provides for me. So that's how they are managing it. That's the summary of this. So if you see, these are the kind of diagrams I'm going to put in against each paragraph of this documentation finally when I edit. And then one more time I will walk through the entire IAM service in probably less than 10 minutes. Okay. So that's my goal of this exercise, what I'm doing. All right, let's go back. What else we have? Identity based and resource based policies. Okay, so let me just copy paste what they're saying. Identity based policies, managed policies, AWS managed policies, inline policies, resource based policies. Okay, let's see the difference between inline policies and so what are they saying here? Okay, resource based policies. Permissions policies that you attach to a resource, such as an Amazon S3 bucket or an IAM role trust policy. Policies that you create and manage and that are embedded directly into a single user group role. In most cases, we don't recommend this. Okay. AWS managed policies that are created and managed by AWS. Customer managed policies. Okay, here is the thing. We got AWS managed policies, which means, okay, what that means is this is AWS managed policy, AWS managed policy, and customer managed policy. Inline policy, resource-based policies. That's what we need to remember. And this whole thing is identity-based policies. Okay, they're all under identity-based policies. Identity-based policies. So under that, I can directly use some of the policies that are provided to me by AWS, or I can create my own, or I can also use some of my inline things, or I can also use some of my resource-based policies. And all these policies will connect to a policy object. These are different kinds of policy. So the general policy object thing that we have seen in the JSON format, those are the things we will specify those things. So we just need to understand that there are different ways that a policy, there are different ways that we can take some of the policies that are already available in the enterprise and then reuse them so that you don't have to reinvent. So as you could see, every enterprise, what they are trying to do is they're trying to minimize their work. All these mechanisms are basically to minimize the amount of work to be done in an enterprise with thousands of people. So if I do something here, I don't want this task to be done by anybody else. If everybody else can request that this and take this service, then when you have to upgrade this service, so you can just simply change it one place and everybody else automatically gets those things. So this is a very difficult thing to implement in an enterprise. But if you could do that, that organization is most efficient. So that's why, if you see AWS, why it is so powerful, it has nailed down all these things as individual services and attached these services to one another through securities groups and all kinds of other things, and manage them independently, and when they upgrade, they are upgrading nicely. Okay, so we have seen that example. Let's go back here. You see here somewhere I saw version. Okay, you see this version, why they put this in the policy? Because when they upgrade, they want to make sure that whatever program interpreting this policy and enforcing it, that program is compatible with this version. So if they upgrade that program, then they have to give a new version number. I have to tell my policy specification is of that version, and that way this data will be interpreted by that upgraded program. So this thing is for that purpose. Now, this is a concept that is that needs to be implemented in all the softwares in the enterprise. So you need to have a version, and that data coming, this data coming will be interpreted by the program of that version. So that's to the purpose. Now you know what is this version. So this is how they manage. So if we can copy this kind of architecture, what Amazon is doing in our own softwares, I think that is the most efficient way to manage our own enterprise. So that's the idea. That's the kind of thought process I want to put in all the people. All right, let's go back. So what else is there here? All right, so all right, that's all. I think it is here. So next session we will see what is ABAC, and then security features. I think these are the only two things. These are all again noise. So we'll see. All right. Thank you very much once again. I'm going to edit these things in the future. Take care. Bye bye.